Hey, what's up? This is Los Angeles Chronicles episode 14. Van Nuys Drunk Punks. This is actually dedicated. I'm gonna dedicate this episode to Jesse Burns. It was his idea. It's my homie from back in the day from 1999. We've been friends since then. It was the idea to make a episode about Van Nuys drunk punks. So I mean, the theme being about L.A. And I said, hey, this is a good idea to talk about the VNDP legacy or the legend, and it'd be good if somebody else would like be my guest on this episode. But I'm just gonna kind of tell my story, like my take on it from like comment, like kind of like a commentary about it, but also my take on it from back when like because like that was in 1999. A lot of stuff happened that year. A lot of fast paced stuff happened for me in my life, and it's gonna be like my story and also the introduce some characters about the Van Nuys drunk punks, and if that makes sense, because I hung out with like a lot of Jewish kids back then too, and then the one kid said his name was Gruber, Stuart Gruber. He said, okay, first of all, you don't live in Van Nuys, you live in Sherman Oaks, and you're not even drunk like some of these other people, and you're not even punk rock, like you got your head shaved in the middle like some kind of crown, and I'll get into that later. So back up a little bit. I'm not gonna go into like the whole teenage story because it seems like a lot of stuff happened in those years in the 90s. But uh, what happened was I was moved back from Florence to LA, and I didn't want to be there. So my mom, she didn't get remarried, but she got back with my stepdad that I haven't even seen him in like 6 years, or probably 6 7 years. And then they got back together and just moved me back out to LA. And yeah, like I said, I didn't want to be there. It was my supposed to be my senior year, and I was supposed to take double up on classes in order to finish with my class, which was class of 2000. But I didn't end up graduating until later because I got kicked out of school. So here we are in LA, and I was a really pissed off teenager. No direction, no guidance. See, back then there was like no tomorrow. We did not give a fuck. And I don't even know if teenagers like that now. Like the kids I see now are more they're bringing back some of the '90s styles, which I think is cool. But I don't know if they're in that state mentally, because now we've been advancing in technology, and back then we used to, if you want to go hang out with somebody, you'd have to walk to their house and bang on the window and wake them up, like, hey, let's go hang out. You don't text somebody. So okay, here we are, and they had an apartment set up in Sherman Oaks, and back then it was you could actually live there, but now Sherman Oaks is getting like the Beverly Hills of the valley. It's expensive over there. So we moved to Moore Park and Fulton, and I was kind of reconnected with some people from when I lived there in fourth grade. Friend of the family, we called him Uncle Mick. He's not my uncle, but he's this Jewish guy, Mick Herman, and he wrote a book called The Path of Least Resistance, and he was kind of adult slacker kind of type, not punk rock, but he would have us over there, and yeah, Moore Park in Fulton. That was there's a 7-Eleven, there's a church. I think Billy Idol played there, and then I had some homies live around the corner, so that was cool. So I was actually went to go check out North Hollywood High School, but I didn't I didn't end up going there. I think I was zoned for that, but we ended up going to Grant High School. So uh, Grant High School was interesting. It was a lot of Armenians and Latinos, and it's a melting pot of everybody, right? But that was a big deal because there was a riot during lunch one time, and it was like the Hispanics versus like the Latino versus Armenians, and then it sounded like a gunshot, but it was really garbage cans at lunchtime, like boom, and then big like a big fight broke out, and people were getting hyped up, and there's a lot of drama. But anyway, I was new at school and was kind of depressed. I didn't have any friends or whatever, so you register for school, and then some kids were talking shit about me because like the way, first of all, I looked like not punk rock, but I looked more like with my head shaved in the middle like an old man, and it was the black Caucasian haircut or something. So I had the sideburns like gap shaved in the sideburns like Kerry King or something, and And then I had this goatee with like I put Elmer's glue in it and shaped like an M. So I had my own religion called Malcolmism with the 10 Malcolm commandments, and it was a lot of creative stuff going on. So Black Caucasian had like some kind of religious, like my own religion and a meaning behind it. Like the symbols BC meant but like before Christ, and it was kind of like a parody of Christianity. Pissed a lot of people off. Pissed a lot of people off in different schools, not even L.A., but also the schools in on the East Coast too. So uh, met Jesse, and he was kind of taking up for me during registration at the for classes and everything. And he was punk rock when I saw him because he had that kind of distinctive look with the patches and all this patches sewn on your shorts and hoodies and stuff. And then I mean they were like a cult. So then good friends of mine I just met like all at that school. I mean shout out to Jonathan Hernandez. I actually called him yesterday and I wanted him to bring me back to reality and catch up with that guy, but I couldn't get him on the phone because I've been wanting to do this episode. So he's always one of a kind, and when he had a tri-hawk, like he was Brazilian and he had a pink tri-hawk, right? So then we all stood out, and I mean I would be scared of us now, but he was I mean, he was loud and outspoken and everything. He still is. He'll just say what's on his mind and not care what people think. And that's what punk rock should be about, and the whole mentality. And some stuff Jesse would say would be like, yeah, man, I believe in anarchy to a certain extent. And then like my friend Scott, or I hadn't seen him in a while, but he would say that like he made it up, and he said, yeah, that fool doesn't know about a party, man. He just like copies everything I say. And then later on, like we were on a band, and they already had a band going on called Plague, and they were like a kind of DRI, but more of the crust punk influence, and which I never got into. Like it's called some of those bands were like Os Rotten and Charles Brunson and stuff like that. Never got into it, but if you ask me personally, like the hardcore punk I like is like um the early '80s stuff, and then after that, I don't know, but I mean, there's a lot of different styles you can. It's called subgenres, and then I get into different things, but I'm just gonna go ahead and ruin the episode. It's because like that's back when like Blink 182 made it big, and then when I first heard that song, like no 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 no, like I liked that, but I didn't tell anybody. So I was like acting like I didn't like it, and then everything I'd listen to of it. But we used to listen to like sorry sold out on the episode anyway. So just you can um you can give up on me now. I'm not gonna get pissed off or anything. But when I met John, I was like, hey, what do you listen to? And he said, yeah, I listen to punk rock and listen to oldies. Like oldies, and my mom listens to that, but it was cool when he listened to it, So it was, oldies back then was K Earth 101 on in LA, and now K Earth 101 is oldies is 80s. 80s is oldies, but back then it was like 60s was oldies, and then so there's this Mexican guy, and then his name was Alex, but he didn't go to Grant, and then but he was good friends with. He was like John's best friend, but then when I met him, like hung out a couple times, but then he ended up going to jail, and I forgot why he went to jail. But he had this screwed up tattoo of like Jesus, and it was pissed a lot of people off, man. But then he went to jail, and then um forgot what was. Oh yeah, I asked him. I was like, hey, John listens to oldies. He's like, oh, oldies is fucking bad, fool. I don't know about the fucking Beach Boys though. Oh, actually, I forgot to mention about this episode. I'm gonna be cussing in this episode, so you can go ahead and turn it off because this is gonna be like parental advisory, and I don't like to cuss around kids or anything, and I don't even like for children to see the shirts with the cuss words on it and stuff. And I used to wear that too, by the way. So, changed a lot of stuff around over the years. So go ahead and skip it and come back to it later. Like this is parental advisory, so um, yeah. So be prepared to actually also to get offended in it too, because might say some offensive stuff too. So But that's what it's all about, man. Because it wasn't about holding anything back. Because like I said, it was we didn't believe in tomorrow. So this 1999, and then there was a hyped up thing about 2000, and in my mind, I'm like, man, what if the world comes to an end, right? So then New Year's was kind of like a hyped up thing, and it's gonna be year 2000. There's gonna be a riot, or the world's gonna come to an end. We don't know. And then we're all doing drugs mostly on the weekends. I would experiment with drugs and drinking, and um, I mean, at the same time too, man. You gotta like blame. I blame my parents and me and my environment, because it wasn't like I was raised like with a lot of guidance, like even either like I mean with the morals and knowing right from wrong. I mean, not 100%, but I had some kind of moral fiber going on. But it was I would see the flaws in my parents, and what they would do wrong, and I'm like, well, why should I respect you because you're doing this? And then fuck this. I'm gonna um, none of this stuff makes sense to me. So the music that we listen to, like that's who raised me when I was a kid. So I mean, it could be MTV was pumping up stuff on us back then, but then after that we got into the more underground shit. So then the underground artists like that made sense, and that's what I followed. So then drinking beer made sense too. Drinking, I was like, hey, I like this. I feel comfortable, and this brings out like it makes me more open with people, and then this makes sense. So there was a lot of drinking beer. Um, so it was like experiment with some hallucinogenics like acid, shrooms. One time we went to go get shrooms from a different high school, and then eat like peanut butter and shrooms sandwich, and then it was me, John, and his girlfriend Sarah. We were all tripping on shrooms to Los Angeles Valley College, and we didn't even really break in. We're just walking around that college for like hours, and then ended up using a payphone to call that guy Scott, making fun of him, and then getting like really paranoid. So yeah, I don't recommend it, but it is what it is. We did this, and actually, this reminds me of like a random story. Like I said, I used to hang out with like a bunch of like Jewish kids and like some Armenian kids too. So there was this big Armenian dude. I ended up working with his dad later at that John's Market at that store. That was his name was Peter, and they're both named the same name. And then he ended up taking this log and busting out the sign in the front of a different school. So then a lot of my friends used to go to different high schools, and then one night we're all hanging out, and then he said, man, I gotta fuck up the school. And then I'm waiting in the car, and then he said like he really liked me. So then he said, man, Malcolm was there, man. That was that gave me like the drive to go do it, and then to go like bust this log, and then like knock out the sign. You know how there's a sign in front of a school that says we're this so and so high school, and then this is what we're gonna do, and then you just vandalized it and like busted the whole damn thing, and then we're hollering and screaming and went home. But I always wanted to tell that story. And what else? Got some stuff written down, like some notes. So yeah, I went to Grant, and then but they were already friends, right? So then they're in a band called Plague, and then they used to hang out with some kids from the west side, like the beach, Santa Monica, Culver City. But before I kind of joined their cult, they were already like established, hanging out with this other band called Counterfeit. And I'm gonna put the link on the YouTube. This is on Spotify and YouTube. I'm gonna put the link to a show where they're all at that show, which is pretty cool because they used to have shows at this record store called Headline Records, and there was this French guy that ran the record store. I think he's still there, man. The place it's survived like 90s, 2000s, and I think you can still go in there and say what's up to him, but they don't have shows there anymore. So I saw actually this band Counterfeit. They're pretty good, like punk band for what they were, and then the bass player like basically taught the drummer and the singer like how to play the music, because they didn't even know like how to play that certain style of music. But there was this mosh pit in the record store, and it's filmed on like the old I don't know if it's a handy cam or something. I know what a handy cam is, that's why I'm saying it, but it was like an old, VCR kind of thing, and then I ended up getting a hold of that in 2003 when I came back for the summer, and then I'm the one that uploaded it to YouTube, so that was pretty cool. And so then Alex, Jesse, and Scott, Jonathan, and Sarah, they're all like moshing in that video, and it brings me back when I see it, which is weird because like that's literally 2 months before I moved back to LA, and then I would go to shows with them that look just like that, like the way we dressed, and some of us were like good looking kids, and we like chose to dress like pieces of shit and go to these shows and then have our hair like that and all these fucked up clothes from the Salvation Army. And I kind of like that attitude rather than like wearing clothes acting like you're better than somebody, or thinking, how punk rock is. It came from like kind of like the stuff in LA kind of came from like how it was pumped up with the film industry and everything, like the all the Hollywood stuff, and they're like, okay, we're gonna be anti that, and we're gonna go into this like underground cult thing. But then if you're a punk and you would be known to sell out if like the Ramones were on some kind of car commercial, if that makes sense. And then you have like guys like Henry Rollins saying like, well, fuck, man, I'd give them exposure and have them on the car commercial, and how is that selling out? But I mean, they didn't change their music; they're just on there, and were they getting paid like $2,000? I don't know, but it was just grimy back then. It was grimier and it was more dangerous, and actually some real dangerous stuff happened to me. I'm gonna tell you about it, but now I don't know. I'd like to have some teenagers on the podcast too. I'm down for that, and to see like what they're going through and how it's different. But it seems like it's safer though, so I kind of want to say something real quick about like, I mean, I didn't say anything deep about like growing up with the way my parents are, or the whole culture of that, but I'm more like immersed in the Asian culture now, and I like what they're talking about. Like my teacher said, well, if you're a parent, then when is it time for you to be his friend? Like, you don't get high with your kid. I mean, you don't sit there and get drunk with your kid. It's not time for. When is there ever time for you to be his buddy? I mean, you're his parent. Act like his parent rather than. I mean, some of the shit my dad said to me, I don't even want to get into it. Like, but we did used to like drink together, and not when I was a teenager, but later on. But saw some stuff I shouldn't have seen, and it's life, and you can't go back and change it. But yeah, hold on. And actually, one more thing about what I just said is like, I think it's more of with I want to say just the white culture, but more of kind of everybody wants to, even the work hard, play hard kind of philosophy. It's kind of like, what I'm trying to say is like, in the Asian culture, it's more of you raise your kids to endure hardships rather than to run away from pain or run away from the struggle. So if I was raised more of like to be stronger and stronger, then it would prepare me more for the difficult situations in school and work and relationships. And then I had to go through that myself to learn myself, if that makes sense. So yeah, but getting back to this whole cult kind of thing, like but speaking of cult, there were like a bunch of skateboarders at Grant, and then they were cool too, but I was more of like the extreme. The punks would go to it was called the lane, or the stoners lane, and then they would get high and nobody would know about it. But there was this screwed up principal. It's called the dean, and I forgot his name, but he'd be on a go-kart, and then he like my homie had like a long sleeve Deicide shirt, and he made him like change the shirt inside out, because he's like, hey, you can't wear that shirt. And then there's this random like death metal kind of wannabe kid, and he has like Camel Corpse shirts, and they made him like change his shirt inside out too. And he's like, hey, what's going on with these butchered shirts? And then he quit wearing it after a while. He's like tired of advertising it. But one time Plague played with the death metal kids band they're called Decay, and then fight broke out at that show. But I want to say something about that one because it was I used to do this dance and everything. It was kind of wild, and then I did that in the mosh pit, and then some guy like came up and tried to fight me like on the side of not in the mosh pit but when you go back to just chilling and watching the show, and then somebody came up and trying to fight me, right? So then homie Jonathan stopped him from fighting me, and he took up for me, and that kind of blew my mind because I wasn't used to that. Like it was more of like all my friends was talk shit about each other, and then that was a different world for me, and it was more of he would kind of take that whole like Brazilian kind of thing, and he grew up like that, and he'd take it to because I mean LA is known for. I mean nobody. I'm not saying like nobody gives a fuck about anybody, but it gets to be like that. Like hey, I'm off out for myself, and he was taking up for me. And it kind of blew my mind. That's what I'm trying to say. So then, but then later at that show, like there was about to be a fight with Decay and Jonathan and Alex were there, but then that wasn't anything too serious. But the shows were crazy back then. It was a place called the Cobalt, and that was I don't know if it's Chatsworth. It was out there like Tarzana or Chatsworth or something. And one night we went out there, and I was talking about like my experience with like tripping on acid, and I was talking about like, oh yeah, I saw the colors or something stupid, and then but then it was like right in front of the kid's dad that took us out to the show, and then I didn't care. I used to just say stuff like that. He's like, hey man, why do you say that in front of my dad? I'm like, man, who gives a fuck about your dad? You know, it was. And then like one time we used to ride the bus a lot, so then one time we're all on the bus to go somewhere. I forgot where it was, and then there was an interesting story. There's this like this black guy on the bus, and he was like, "Hey, what's up with you guys? Like, what's up with this sticker right here?" Or on the he had this kid had a guitar case, and then he said like, "What's up with your band?" And what's like some of the names, and some of the names of their songs were like, "Yeah, fuck the police," and fuck the cops or something. And he said, all right, my man, what you gonna do after you fuck the police? After you ain't got no police? And he was acting like that, and it was tripping me out because I said something about like kill a priest or Wu Tang or something. He's like, kill a priest? Yeah, I'd like to kill that priest. And then I think he was talking about some Christianity or something, and then but the kid had like question authority sticker on like a Fender Squire guitar or some shit. I don't know, man. It was tripping me out. Forgot what else happened though, but we used to ride the bus more, and then one time they used to say like fool a lot, like hey, what's up, fool? Do you want to go hang out today, fool? And I don't hear people talking like that much anymore. But one night there was this girl like 2 seats behind us, and she said, hey, get off the bus, fool. And then we used to go to parties, and sorry, this is like random stories because it's all on like one sheet of paper, like my notes. So it's random stories. So bear with me. One night there was actually this screwed up guy we used to hang out with called Winger. That wasn't his name. His name wasn't Winger, but his name was Dave Delacroix, and I don't even know if he's still living. But like I said, it's 1999, and then we used to hang out by this Carl's Jr. So the cross streets in the valley were like Woodman and Burbank, and then there was a Carl's Jr. and we used to just go there all the damn time, like twice a day, and spicy chicken sandwich, and like we would eat like the same famous star or something they have, right? So then one day, it was in the morning, we're kind of hungover or something. It's me and Jesse just talking shit, and they said like, "Hey, what's up with that guy right there? Like, he looks like he plays music, or he looks like Winger." I think I'm the one that said Winger because that's like I got an older brother that got me into some metal and like I mean Slayer and Metallica or something. I mean he was into hair metal too, like Poison and like Motley Crue and Winger and Warrant and Rat and all that stuff. Never like really got into that. Just made fun of it more. So here's Winger, and we go up to him and actually have the balls to say like, "Hey, what's up, man? Were you in Winger?" And he's acting like, "Oh yeah, how you guys doing?" And just bullshitting with us, and we ended up like, going to his house, and he lived across the street, like a block away, right? So then we ended up going there all the damn time talking about music, and then he drank this beer called Lowenbrow. I don't even know if you can get that anymore. Lowenbrow, and it made like homemade cigarettes. And next thing you know, we're drinking on the weekends, every every weekend at his house. And and this guy's like 45 or something, right? So then we're 17, and he was getting or 16 too, and he's buying alcohol for us, and a couple of his friends were too. So then 2 years ago, we're talking shit about him, and then Jonathan said like, "Fool, I'd like to beat that guy's ass now because if I were like 45, I wouldn't be hanging out with like having 16-year-old girls at my house. Like, I mean, seriously, would you ever have that happen now?" So, but back then it was cool, and it was we're hanging out with this old guy, we're drunk, and we're drinking like 40s, and I used to have this badass picture of like all of us, and it was him and me and Jesse and Scott and Sarah like all just hanging out, and there's this kid named Micah too. It was this Jewish kid, and he was like 3 years younger, so we used to make fun of him because he was a little bit different. Like he was, kind of an arrogant kid, like rich kid, right? But he would like dress punk rock, and then he would used to just like put stains on his shirt sometimes to beg for money, act like he was homeless, and then but he was really like lived in a nice neighborhood, and used to talk shit to him all the time. But I never like got in a fight with him. But more one night, like I'm gonna say something embarrassing about myself. Is like one night he punked me out, and then it was called like you punk someone. It meant like you verbally like say something, like hey, and then you win the whole argument if that makes sense. And then the next day at school at Grand, it was like, hey, this fool got punked by Micah, and then but he was in the band Plague, so Plague was like him and this guy Nick, Jesse, and Scott, and then I would jam with them. But they said I used to like always show him up on the metal stuff because you gotta think of it before I lived in LA. I lived in Mullins, South Carolina, and I used to play like guitar 4 or 6 hours a day, and I learned these Slayer solos. So it was time for us to jam, and I just like came out with a Slayer solo on a right-handed guitar, like with the strings upside down, so it'd be like a left-handed guitar. Actually, I don't, it was Fender Squire guitar or whatever, and I played shows with them too, like uh no, I think I opened up for him one time, Black Caucasian and whatever. So okay, what else? This place we used to go to called. There's a lot of stories, so it'd probably be good to have like a sequel to this one, like me and Jesse or somebody. That'd be really cool actually. This place called the Wash, and we used to jump over the fence, and the Wash was like a freeway, um, kind of a place by the freeway, the I-5, no I-1, the 101 by the There's an In-N-Out Burger. We used to get drunk and go in there, and like on St. Patrick's Day, listen to Dropkick Murphys or something. So it was more of, Sepulveda and Van Nuys Boulevard in Sherman Oaks or something. And there's a Wash. We used to go there and get drunk in the daytime with like these like oi skinhead punks. And then I remember one kid with like the Minor Threat patch on the like sewed on the hoodie, and he was like drunk wearing that, and then like puking, or it was just so much shit like that going on. We used to hang out with this older guy, different groups of people really. Like so, this girl named Ray, John named her Ray, and she was Thai, so her parents were like Thai immigrants, and I used to hang out with like all these different kids from different cultures. Like one's Brazilian. This girl Sarah, his girlfriend was French. She could speak French, and then I mean, here I am from like the South, and I'm American, and so anyway, the Thai girl, like she used to date this older guy named Rob, and the guy was a fucking asshole, man. And he was just, I think he was 24, and he was hanging out with us and buying us alcohol and stuff too. And then he ended up cheating on her, like right in front of her. So like one night, I mean, we used to go to the Wash together too. And then actually, the picture I'm gonna upload for the episode is like me getting drunk with Rob and Ray at the Wash, and that was sometimes like a typical school night. That's what would happen, or we would go to Orange County and hang out with his homie and then come back. But I remember those as like fun times. So even though like I didn't want to be there when I was a kid, when I was a teenager, like I mean, I said like a lot of disrespectful stuff to my mom for moving me around like that. But on the other side of it, like you don't want to change it for the world, because that's what made me the man I am today, is going to 6 different high schools and a lot of these stories, you know. So back to this whole thing about Rob. Like one night we go to we went to a DRI show, and then that was a sick show in West Hollywood. I think it was at the Roxy, and it was, you know, um DRI. They were like, I used to worship DRI, so then they played like all the old fast shit, like a lot of stuff off of Dealing With It, and they were like a cult. So then there was this chick outside, and she had like orange hair or something. I didn't meet her until after the show, but her name was like Mary, and then Rob ended up getting with her, like cheating on Ray. So then, but she lived in Orange County. So then one night we go to no, we ended up going to like Orange County to go get her, and then we ended up like going to this park and to go drink in the daytime. And I got some like St. Ides. Like this is how old school this is. Like they don't make St. Ides anymore. You can get the hat off of eBay or whatever, but yeah, St. Ides. So I was here comes the cops, and to get us like to arrest us, or not arrest us, but they were just really fucking with us. Really, hey, what are you guys doing? And then they did some kind of like pretending like they were handcuffing us, or like some kind of trick where you twist your arm, or like why are you fighting me, or some kind of like thing with your knee, and then I don't know, and then you see how I was dressed, and we used to like wear these patches and stuff. So he reads this he started reading my jacket, and he said like wasted youth, fuck authority. That's what the patch said, and that was like that band. I mean, you have to like hear that song. It sounds like shit, and it's still like a timeless legacy. So then, but we ended up not going to jail. They just told us to quit drinking, and then we would go to this guy named not Limp Biscuit Chris, but we called him like OCLBC, Orange County Limp Biscuit Chris, and that was Rob's friend. And he one day he said something stupid. He's like, "Hey, why don't we start a band, man? Like, you, me, and OCLBC." And I don't know if he made this up or not, but I think he said he saw Dexter Holland from Offspring at the Del Taco or something in Orange County, and he said, "Hey, last night I fucking saw Dexter at the Del Taco. I gave him 2 black eyes. I said, hey man, you guys are like glam punk, man." And then I just punched him, and then he said he was wearing like some kind of Hot Topic glam silk shirt or something. So then the whole time that we hung out with that older guy, like he was living at Ray's house, which is in like the Asian neighborhood or like the Thai neighborhood in North Hollywood, which is off of like Sherman Way. And we used to just go there, but I heard he was like living in her room, and the dad, she lived with their parents, and they didn't even know until later. So like the whole time he was pissing in jars, like living in the room. And then the dad heard about it one night. I don't know if this is what happened for real. I wasn't there, but I heard there was like this board nailed to the door so nobody could get in or something. And I heard the dad like chop down the door. And I mean, I would have like paid $30 to see that, like to see him give that guy like an old fashioned ass beating. And I wrote some kind of big like thing on Facebook one time about the Van Nuys drunk punks, and then just to get out of my system, because I was like delivering in my old neighborhood in Sherman Oaks, like where we lived at the time, like in that apartment building, and that just brought me back just to live around there. And it's changed a little bit now, but it's the same street and same building, you know. So, and then they got Uncle Mick, rest in peace. You know, he ended up dying like 2 years ago. That was kind of rough to deal with, because like a lot of my homies died at the same time too. I'm gonna give a shout out at in the episode, but a lot of something like a lot of people ask me about over the years I got tired of even talking about was I was on the Jay Leno show, which was cool. You want, I mean, you want to change that for the world just to be on TV. Like I can say I was on the TV in the '90s, and it was more of a big deal back then because that was before YouTube. You either saw it and videotaped it with the damn VCR, or you didn't see it, or you'd hear about it. So I'm from a small town, and people used to talk about it a lot. But people even talked about it in LA too. So one night it was like me, John, and Sarah, and we were on like Melrose Avenue. I mean, we took the bus there. We're hanging out with some girl that like Jesse used to date, and she was Greek, and then I ended up dating her after him. Like every time he was dating somebody, I was like I would go out with the girl after him, but it didn't end up working out. But we're all walking down the street, and then we see something across the street, like they're filming something with a big light, and then we're like, hey, this Jay Leno show, right? So then we go across the street, and then here's some kind of producer like just comes up to she comes up to us because we look crazy, you know. So they're trying to get interested in looking people off the street for jaywalking. So I mean, I look like that with the Dax gel, with the crown and the Mounty Mao, the the sideburns shaved with the gaps in the sideburns too, like Slayer or something. I'm wearing like an anal cunt shirt on TV. If you really know your underground music, that was like that band. The name of the album was called "I Like It When You Die," and they pissed off so many people. Last time I saw them was I saw him 2 weeks before the singer Seth Putnam. He ended up dying 2 weeks after me and my friend saw him, and they had a song called "Hitler Was a Sensitive Man." That was later on, but yeah, they asked us to be on TV, so they asked John first, and John was like, "Man, fuck TV, I want to be on there. Like, if you should put Malcolm on there, that'd be funny, you know." So here I am, and then he asked me, "Here's Jay Leno, his big light," and they made me sign something. Like I didn't even. It said like, I had to like lie and say I was 19, no 17. So I mean I don't lie, but like that's how it happened. If I didn't say I was 19, I wouldn't be on Jay Leno's show. So uh yeah, if I wouldn't do it now, but that's what happened. And he asked me all these questions about the 20th century, famous stuff in the 20th century, and then it was funny though because I knew like most everything he asked me, I knew that I got it right because maybe I was raised more of like kind of well read in some aspects, and then kind of like up to date with a lot of pop culture. I used to watch a lot of TV and when I was a teenager. So and then but I didn't do too well in school, by the way. So here's all the questions, but the ones I got wrong he put on TV. So I still have the tape of it. Got from a DVD. Got put on DVD at Costco. And then I met this bimbo that was on TV too, and then she was walking down the street wearing some kind of zebra hat, and she was on the same skit. But anyway, it was fun. It was like surreal experience, and he had the big chin, and he signed my cassette tape. So do you know what the cassette tape it was? It was Bastard Sons of Hank, and that was an underground band. It's hard to get their stuff, and they're from where I'm from, and it was really hard to get. But I ended up I lost that and my Tommy Lee Motley Crue. We ended up meeting Tommy Lee too. Um, yeah, the next day at school, here's all these Armenian kids, and then they're like, "Hey, you're on Jay Leno show," and then they're in the hallway saying like, "Hey, we saw you on Jay Leno," and it was more them that asked me about it than anybody else really, because there's like a lot of Armenians at that school, and like I said, the skateboard kids, and then I was like a social chameleon in school. I would hang out with the popular kids and the skateboard and the punk kids, and everybody knew me, and it was a weird experience because I wasn't even there for like a whole year. So just talk about Grant, like actually Jonathan, he ended up going to a different school, and it wasn't the same after he left. So he ended up talking a lot of shit about that school, the way it was set up, and actually the valley in general. So he moved. No, he didn't even move away from the valley. He started going to like his girlfriend's high school, which was in Culver City. So then he said he was talking about all these good things about like, oh, the air is colorful, and it was like, fuck the valley, man, it's so lame over here. And then there was there's like these black guys at the school, and they used to talk shit about everybody, like when they walking by, and they would stand at the same place and be like, and he would walk by and he said, "Hey, you fucking dirty ass punk rocker," and then he one day, like when they said that, he's like, "Hey, fuck you, man," and then and then the next day they apologized, like, "Hey, man, you know what I'm saying? Like, me and my friends are just fucking around, right?" And then he said, "Yeah, you just need to like watch who you're fucking around with, you know." But then he was a bad influence on me because I kind of took that like attitude with me to school one day. So then one morning I ended up getting into an argument with my stepdad, and I ended up like pushing him against the wall, like just pushed the fuck out of him. Like he had his shirt off, this fat hairy guy, just pushed him right. And I still don't like him, man. I mean, but whatever. That was my stepdad, and then I went to school, and I took that attitude with me to school. So then I used to rap to people, and I would go to the popular kids and rap. And some of the shit wasn't even like my lyrics. It was like Grim Reaper from Gravediggers. Like I rapped his whole verse one time. That's a different story though, but that was crazy. And then so I went to these guys and rapped for them, and they were by the cafeteria tables. And there's one kid. He was like he was a Crip, right? And he was wearing a New York hat. And he said, "Hey man, you need to get the fuck out of here. You need to go somewhere else with that shit." And I said, "Hey, fuck you." I was like that. I was like, "Hey, who the fuck you talking to?" It was more of like where Jonathan was coming from. And then he said, "I'll kick your fucking ass," and all that stuff. And I was like, "Hey, the security guard's right there. That's stupid, you know." But then I used to hang out with the Mexicans. We called them the Mexican Soda Machine Death Metal homies. And they used to wear Brujeria shirt, Pantera shirts, Metallica, Master of Puppets, all this stuff. And they were more metal, right? So then I was over there talking to them, and I used to hang out with them like every other day. Some guy named Armando, some guy named Yuyo, and then some kid that was on a skateboard, and we kind of made fun of him because he didn't look like a skater. He was more like a kind of nerdy kid, but it was different personalities. It was cool. And then they wrote like CFH on the wall, which means what? Cowboys from Hell. So speaking of that, he let me borrow his Pantera 3 VHS tape. This is how old this is. He's like, "Let me borrow the VHS tape." And I was putting it in my book bag, and here comes the guy from that I just said "fuck you" to or whatever. And then he comes out of nowhere and punches me, right? So then it was just like boom. And I mean I saw them coming up, but I didn't really react to it. And then he punches me like two more times, and I'm just, it was pretty hard. I couldn't even like fight him back because it was a fast, like they call that sucker punch or something, but it happened really fast, right? And no, I didn't get any hits in or anything. It was more of like just now putting my book bag back on, boom, you know, three times, and I was like bloody and shit too. I was like, there's blood on the ground. And then it was, you know, when there's a fight in school, everybody kind of like gathers around, like, "Oh shit, what's going on?" It's intense, and here comes, you know, security guards. Here comes all this shit going on, and then they just get me and they pull me away, and then the Mexican kids, they didn't do anything. That shit happened too fast, right? Like, so they were like, what the fuck, right? And then so they like grabbed me away, and I remember somebody saying, "Do you want to press charges?" And I don't even know what that shit means. So then I ended up going to the hospital, and here comes like they call my mom and my stepdad, and we all go to the hospital, and it takes a while, maybe 3 or 4 hours of all the shit we had to go through to get I got stitches on my face, like, and inside my mouth too. And if you ever look at me, like look close in my lip, there's like a scar right like by my lip, and then that's from that fight. That's from, or wanting to fight. It was more of like me getting my ass beat at school. And then it was so this was, my mom was really pissed too, and then she was what I was about to say, so we go back to Sherman Oaks to the apartment after that. And no, my stepdad says something kind of interesting. It's like, you know what, Malcolm? This could have happened anywhere. This could have happened in L.A. It could have happened in it could have happened in Florence, but it happened here. And he was always kind of trying to go on these like emotional, like rampage kind of things or something. We get back to the apartment, answer machine, and then here's the answer machine with like 8 or 10 different messages of like kids asking about what happened. Which, looking back, that's kind of cool that like 10 people would even like care to fucking call you and like, I mean, people were worried, man. I mean, like people were even crying about that. And then like, I just remember that Jewish kid, like the first kid that I mentioned in the podcast. He was like, I'll never forget that message. He's like, "Hey Malcolm, what happened to you? We saw you. You're all bloody and shit." And hey, it builds character. It's kind of like the '90s hip hop. I mean, that was better because what, they had more street character and they've been through more shit than the kids now. I mean, name something that's out now that's good, and I could be wrong. So, next thing you know, like I think I went to school the next day. I didn't even. I wasn't even. I don't even think I called in sick the next day or anything. Or I mean, absent or whatever. So I think yeah, that kid Stewart. He's like, man, you should like act like a gangster, man. Like I mean, yeah, he got some good shots on me, but I did this and then yeah. So that was an interesting story. Never actually told that story before, so it's cool to have a podcast. And then what else? It's, it's a lot of shit that would happen. Yeah, I mean that guy like Limp Bizkit Chris. That wasn't even. That was a different Chris. Like we used to go to this guy's house, and his name was Limp Bizkit Chris. And then on New Year's, we were all there. Um, yeah, this is too much shit. Actually, like I'm about to just close out this episode, and we're just gonna make like a sequel. So, but this was fun. Like I'm looking at like all the stuff I wanted to say on here, and yeah, I actually got put into a mental institution for saying some screwed up shit at school, and that was yeah, that was really intense. Yeah, but I'm about to close this episode out, and look forward to this was yeah, look forward to season 2. We're gonna get back into this Van Nuys Drunk Punks VNDP. So, but a good recommendation. I mean, we used to listen to a lot of really cool music, and one thing I'll say about like I got like a lot of talented friends, and some of the metalhead kids would make fun of me for listening to punk rock, and then vice versa too. So uh, I got more into the hardcore metal scene later on, and kind of abandoned the punk scene. But it's always good to revisit. So, but speaking of good music, an underrated band that nobody really talked about, they were like actually came out in the '90s. I don't know if they're crust punk or something, but I just like it. And the singer sounds like Henry Rollins from like the old SOA and the old Black Flag. So that raspy kind of, but he just sounds like he didn't sound like trying to be a rock star or anything. It's more like somebody that we would hang out with. So maybe that's like why we like DRIs, because he was like one of us. He wasn't like trying to be up there like Vince Neil, like you're gonna watch me on some huge stage. And then um Vomit Punks, the Lost EP. I recommend that. It's like 11-minute EP, and there's this one special guest track with like this chick singer screaming, and then it goes back to him. And I haven't heard anybody talk about that, so we used to listen. We used to listen to it. So yeah, that's it for the episode. Okay, all right, thanks, bye.